Great, so we've looked at draggables and resizables. Remember, our main aim here is to be comfortable with using documentation and examples to achieve what we want using, in this case, jQuery plugins. Now we've just got a couple more videos to go before we can do our big jQuery project code player. But here I'm going to set you a challenge. Can you create a little square and a big square, 2 different colors, and then make it so that you can drag the little square around, and when you drop it into the big square, you get an alert. Go for it. Okay, I hope you managed it. The idea, of course, was to use the droppable interaction in the jQuery UI. Let's find it. There it is. So this has got this built-in that we can drag the first one around and then drop it into the second. So really all you need to do is understand how this works and then apply it to the example that I gave you. So let's have a look at the source of this example, which does everything that we want, except instead of alerting, the background goes yellow. So we're going to need to add our alert in instead. So let's have a look. First off, we make the first element draggable. That's fairly straightforward. We've seen that before. Then we make the second element droppable. And all we need to do is add a drop function and then run some code when that drop happens, and that's going to be where our alert goes. So pretty straightforward, right? Let's try it out. So we'll start almost from scratch, because we're going to want those 2 boxes. So we'll leave resizable and also, but I'm going to rename them so it makes a bit more sense. So we'll have draggable and droppable, and draggable is going to be small and droppable will be big. Let's have a look. Okay, so that's what we want. Of course I can't do any dragging or dropping as yet. What I want to do is take my draggable element and make it draggable. All right, let's just check that that works first off. Excellent. So it's draggable, but it's not yet droppable. So now it's just a matter of putting in our droppable code. So let's apply this to our droppable div. And now this is where we need to add the code here. So I need to copy everything between the 2 parentheses. I'm going to copy the whole lot and then explain it as we go through it. Let's have a look. So we're adding a drop function. And in fact, I'm going to get rid of this code because that's all specific to their example. So all we need to edit is what we want to happen when the drop happens. And this is it. So this is a function. Notice we've got event and UI here. They are parameters that will be returned and we can refer to if we want to. Let's have a little look and just see what they are. We'll need to look at the documentation for that. So we're working with an event here, and the event that we're working with is drop. And you can see here we've got event, and this will tell you what type of event has happened. Now the event, as we can see in the documentation here, is something like blur, focus, load, resize, etc. Now we've got a click option here, which may be what returns in this case, but what we're really doing is unclicking. We're lifting up our mouse to drop the object. So we'll have a look in a minute and see what event is actually returned, but that's not particularly important for us. The UI allows you to access various other bits of information. So if you had a number of items that could be droppable here, then we could access the item which was dropped so we'd know which one it was. And you can see we've got a helper object here as well. We can access the CSS position of the draggable helper and also the offset position of that object as well. So I wouldn't worry too much about these. I doubt you're going to need them unless you're doing anything particularly advanced, but they are information that we can access in our function if we want to. The main thing that we want to do though is just have an alert. So that's pretty straightforward, and I'll just say dropped. So let's take a look. So we can drag it around, pop it in there, and we get our alert. Fantastic. So I hope you managed to figure out how to do at least most of that yourself. One of the challenges of working with documentation is figuring out how far your understanding needs to go. And that will be definitely up to you and your situation and your personality as well. You might be the sort of person that really wants to be clear on what event and UI are, or you might not care at all as long as it works. But you need to be able to sort through the example code and all of the API examples to get what you need. All right, let's just have a quick look then and see what event has been returned here. So alerting it didn't give us anything particularly useful because it's an object. So let's see if we log it to the console, maybe that will give us more of a clue as to what it actually involves. So I've just dragged it in and then control click or right click and inspect. And let's have a look at the console. So you can see we've got our event there. And here we go. We've actually got a lot of information in. So I'm not going to go through what all of this information is. Some of it you can probably work out. Most of it you're not going to be even remotely interested in. The thing I was particularly looking for was the type of event. And so it is in fact a drop. What you might be interested in is the to element, as I mentioned. So that tells you the element that has been dragged to it. And as well as the drop element that was dragged to. Alright, so loads more information than you probably were interested in there. We'll go back to alert dropped for our sample code. The main point, once again, is that you need to be able to navigate the documentation to get the information that you need and be willing to put to one side the information that you don't need. Alright, so one more video before we make our code player project is just looking at a couple of the widgets, and those are accordion and sortables.